Involved in the design of the new skinning engine and also helping out with some of the business development side of the house. And then myself, Joe Brinkman, doing some more of the technical stuff and marketplace and things like that. So we all wear a lot of different hats in the organization, but that's sort of what we do on a day-to-day basis, I guess. So what we're going to talk about during the panel discussion today is we're going to go talk a little bit about where we were at OpenForce 07 and what we laid out there as our vision for the year for our roadmap. And then we're going to talk a little bit about where we're actually at in terms of delivering on that roadmap. And then finally we're going to talk about what's left to come and when we expect to make some of those announcements, both in terms of some of the other OpenForce conferences that are coming up. And then finally, we'll be doing a giveaway at the end this afternoon, along with the Q&A. So with that, I will go ahead and start the panel. So the first thing that was on the panel, and I think there are different aspects of this that all of us have found to be challenges that we had or visions that we had for the platform, and that we announced at the OpenForce in Las Vegas last year. And there were basically 5 areas, and I'll let Nick and some of the other guys talk about some of their thoughts around those areas and what they really mean in terms of the jobs or the work that they're doing on the platform. So the first area was like social networking. So Nick, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Social networking is, as everyone can imagine, a pretty big and important topic these days. Even sites that have nothing to do with social networking present themselves as social networks. Our philosophy is to really look at what advantages can we provide to DotNetNuke users by incorporating social networking technology. And given the fact that even though we've had social networking concepts around for a little while, the fact that a standard API is still in its infancy. You've heard of OpenSocial, you've heard of Friend Connect, you've heard of Facebook Connect, etc. So these are continuing to evolve. OpenSocial is just at version 0.8 that was actually just ratified released a couple of weeks ago. So what we're doing is essentially at this point looking at the requirements and analyzing the use cases that would potentially allow DotNetNuke user bases to be represented as a social network through external social networks. So it's still exploratory phase, but look for us to start leaning towards OpenSocial because it seems to be the leading sort of API that most of the bigger players have jumped behind. So we're going to focus on that. I fortunately live only a few blocks from Google, so spend a lot of time on their campus learning as much as I can about OpenSocial, gadgets, etc. And expect everything I learned to ultimately find its way into the core. So we are committed to making DotNetNuke social networking aware. It's just a matter of time.
Okay, so that really gives you an idea of where we're going with the social networking side. Yeah, and this is a good time. How many people here, quick raise of hands, how many people here were at OpenForce 07 and had an opportunity to see sort of what the roadmap looked like? Okay. So I'd like to get some feedback from the audience and a little bit of audience participation here and get your ideas and thoughts and feedback on what you sort of perceive social networking and how that might help you, or questions you might have about how we're going to implement that and what value that brings. Yes, sir.
I guess one of my questions is, does the comment mean that things that are written to run on the OpenSocial platform should run on in .NET?
Absolutely. Most of what OpenSocial is the API, it's really, there's 2 things. There's the JavaScript client-side API, which is using the gadgets mechanism for hosting applications. And then there is the concept of a server container. The OpenSocial group that is led by one of the Google product managers, Tom Peterson, they put out reference samples of server-side code in PHP and in Ruby, but there is nothing available in .NET. So we haven't talked about it yet, but this might be a potential opportunity for DotNetNuke to leapfrog really forward in terms of social networking and be the first sort of product that has OpenSocial server-side integration on .NET. So it would be a huge task, but we've done bigger tasks before. So, but yeah, it would definitely, when we would implement it, we would start off with this client-side gadgets, of which the framework you already saw is sort of in place, and move on to the server-side aspect of it.
Any other questions on the social networking stuff and sort of where we're going? In the back?
Would you foresee any issues with the Google open source in conflict with the Microsoft live login process and such? Like right now, you can integrate the Microsoft live logins with your portal, but then you're talking about going to the Google application framework. So it's kind of
So OpenSocial does not require that you use any kind of, mandate any kind of authentication use. So it's a separate issue. OpenSocial API is more about sharing your social graph and making the friends and their attributes available inside and outside. So I don't think it will be an issue. There won't be a point of conflict there.
So the second area, unless there are any other questions? Okay, let's move on and talk a little bit about the second leg of what we discussed as the roadmap, and that was content localization. Right? We've always had a strong story around localizing the static content, and I'm going to let Sean talk a little bit about sort of what our vision is for content localization and why that's important.
So dynamic localization or content localization is obviously something which comes up more in Europe and I mean non-North American countries, but it's still equally important in North America because really the internet is like one big global sandbox. So if you're doing business in the United States or Canada, then very likely you have customers that are overseas in other countries that need to support multiple languages. So developing applications, web applications, it's not good enough anymore to just support English. So I mean, we really need to have a comprehensive solution which accommodates multiple languages. And like Joe said, since .NET 3, which is basically 3 years ago, we've had a solution for static content, which basically allows you to localize the administrative user interfaces of the application so that the person who's using the application can log in and they can interact with it using labels and help text, which is in their native language. And that's been a very powerful feature, and it's been essential for the .NET usage in other countries with in other languages. But the thing that we're missing is content localization. There's ways to accomplish this today, but they're not very elegant. Basically, what you'd have to do is create multiple portals, one portal for each language variant, and then you'd have to manually keep the content in each of those portals synchronized with one another. So even if you had a master copy that was being maintained in English, you'd have to manually notify your translators whenever there was a content change so that they would go into the other language versions and keep those up to date. And that's really just not efficient and not doable for most enterprise customers, most users in general. So, I mean, the solution that we need to come up with needs to accommodate content localization. And we've done a number of prototypes so far on various ways that this can be accomplished. We have plenty of team members that are in Europe that are very keen on this particular solution, and so they've come forward with different solutions. And at this point, we're trying to evaluate which of those approaches is the best. And we haven't actually made any significant, well, we made progress in terms of the prototypes, but it'll be at least the next probably 5.1 before there's actually content localization. That being said, there have been some